And this is what happens when you don't tell your own story. People will tell your story for you. Hey, what's going on? Mike Gastin here, a.k.a. ya boy Mike. And it's Wednesday, September 23rd, and we've got some big news, people. Big news. Mars Corporation, the giant food conglomerate, has come out with a new revision to its brand, Uncle Ben's Rice. They've rolled out a new revision. Now, if you remember, back when the recent BLM movements kicked off, Uncle Ben's Rice and a number of other brands like Aunt Jemima and Eskimo Pie and Land O'Lakes Butter all said, hey, we understand that our mascots and our brands are problematic, that they do not respect the morals and the ethics and the values of today's consumer. And so we're going to make some big changes. These different brands are going to make big changes. And Uncle Ben's Rice was one of them. We did a podcast on this on The Currency. It was a live stream, good discussion. So it's been a couple months, and Uncle Ben's Rice, or Mars, has come out and said, we've done it. We've done it, boys. We've eliminated racism. We have changed the brand, and we are rolling out the new brand. And so I want to present to you, ladies and gentlemen, the dynamic, forward-thinking, innovative, energized, revised Uncle Ben's Rice brand. Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Ben's Original. That's right. Take a look in all its glory. Ben's Original, revised, refreshed, rejuvenated, leading the way forward. Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second. What am I looking at? It's the same package. It just doesn't have the guy on the cover anymore. And we don't call it Uncle Ben's anymore. It's just Ben's Original. So that's it. That's what they came back with. And I'm joking a little bit. I understand why they had to do this. I understand why they chose to do this. I understand why some of the other brands do this. I'm not anti-modifying your brand. I understand some of these brands are problematic and so on. And I think some are overreacting. Some are just nervous that they're going to get, the pilloried, drawn and quartered, as it were, in the public's arena of opinion. And they want to avoid that. And I get that because billions of dollars are riding on it. I totally get it. But here's the thing. They made this announcement. We're going to yank it. Oh, we've had this deep concern and we don't feel comfortable. We're going to come back to you folks and show you what we got. And this is it, Ben's Original. Not very original, if you ask me. Now, I understand why they have to do this, because there's some equity. You don't want to just throw the equity. I can just hear the meeting. They're all around the table, the CEO, the whole C-suite, the CMO. You got your agency people. You got everybody there, and you're thinking, well, we don't want to lose the equity. The consumer goes to the shelf, and they look for that orange package. They just look for it. And so on a certain level, I have to give them credit, but that yes, this is a good way to retain that equity. And at the same time, avoid getting in trouble. Although you still got the guy's name, Ben's Original. But who's Ben? Ben just disappeared. His face doesn't appear on the package. He's just gone. Now, maybe they'll revise this. Maybe they'll iterate over time. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not here to really rip them apart. I do want to touch on one thing, though. And I think all this could have been avoidable. In this age of BLM, we're very big on people of color. We want to put them forward. We're not looking to strip them out of society. We're not looking to take them out of our products. We want to put people of color forward. We want to elevate them. We want to respect them and include them in a way that is more equitable and generous and reflective of who we are as consumers. And yet here's Mars Corporation stripping Uncle Ben off the package. This is a person of color who just lost their prominence. He lost his job. Now, Uncle Ben's not a real person, obviously. And I've been reflecting on this all day today when the news came out and taking a look at this, because I was curious, what were they going to do? How were they going to come out? What were they going to do? And here's what stood out to me. I think that Mars Corporation and the Uncle Ben's brand had to do this because they allowed the market to tell their story. They allowed the market to define who they are. They allowed the market to tell their brand story when they had an opportunity to do it themselves. And here's why I say this. As I was reading various news accounts of this decision today, there were multiple origin stories out there floating around about Uncle Ben. One of them said he was a Texas rice farmer. Another one said he was a very popular maitre d' in a Chicago restaurant back in the day. Another said he worked on a steamboat as a I don't know what he did. He was on a steamboat. He was like this step and fetch guy in a steamboat. And like there's all these different stories. And at one point, Mars even had this kind of little shtick where Uncle Ben was the CEO of Uncle Ben's Rice. I think they did this in the mid-early 2000s. And there was even a website where you could see Uncle Ben's desk and you could look at the different items. So there are all these different origin stories about who is Uncle Ben. They had decades, they had generations to tell that story. They had generations to iterate and tell that story. And to this day, if they had done that, and they had done that in an intelligent way, if they crafted a brand story and they had put that story forward, they wouldn't have had to pull Uncle Ben off the package. This is an example of what happens when you are lazy. Now, I don't know the people at Uncle Ben's. I don't know the people at Mars. They're probably really savvy people. They're probably really good at their job. And I'm not trying to take a pot shot at anybody, but I think this is a great example for all of us. This is a great example of what happens when you do not tell your own story. When you just kind of rest back on your orange packaging and your blue writing, and you got this guy, this nicely illustrated, he looks like a nice guy. The old Uncle Ben, I liked him. Looked like a great guy. But when you've got him on there and you just rely on the fact that people know him, you don't tell the story about him, you don't get the quality across. Who is Uncle Ben? What does he stand for? Why is he on this package? What should I believe about this rice? What promise does Uncle Ben make to the consumer? What expectation should I have of this rice? And here's the thing, it's rice. It's like so commoditized, like billions of people across the globe, rice is their staple diet. The rice is like one of the most commoditized products in the world. So you've got to tell a story. Just having a mascot that's recognizable isn't enough. And who could have predicted that down the road that mascot would be problematic, that they would have to yank him from the product, and probably in the process lose millions of dollars doing so. This is going to cost them a ton of money. This probably already has. So this isn't me foretelling the death of Uncle Ben's Rice as a brand. This isn't me trying to slag the team over there. But I think it's indicative. I think it's instructive. I think this is a good illustration as to why we need to consider our brand and its story. What is the narrative of our brand? What is the story? And to tell that story, Uncle Ben's Rice is an example of a brand that just took for granted its position, took for granted its consumer recognition on the shelf, took for granted its retail space, and thought we're good. And then all of a sudden the world changed around it. And I think if Mars had been telling its own story, if Mars had been actively telling us who Uncle Ben is and why we should believe in him, they would have never had to do this. In fact, he could have been a hero of the change that they say they're trying to respond to. Uncle Ben could have been a leader of that change. He could have been a hero. I don't mean actually Uncle Ben out on the streets protesting. I'm saying he could have been an example of a person of color tied to a brand in a way that's ethical, moral, powerful, valuable, good. It could have led the conversation. Imagine the sales that Uncle Ben's could experience right now if it wasn't tied to something negative. And this is what happens when you don't tell your own story. People will tell your story for you. They will fill in the story. They will create your story for you. If you don't tell your story, somebody else will, and you're not going to like the story that they tell about you. And that's the important thing to remember here. Uncle Ben's and the Mars Corporation missed an opportunity. They did not tell their own story. And in doing so, they allowed other people to tell their story, and they were forced to make a change, and not a change for the better. It's boring. It's uninspired. They'll keep selling rice. There's no problem there. But they missed a huge opportunity, and it's too bad. Guys, I hope this is useful to you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree? Have you played with brand stories? What do you think about the Uncle Ben's brand, the Ben's Original? Is this a winner or is this a dog? Leave me a comment down below. Do me a favor, if you found this video useful, if you found my visage attractive and my speech eloquent, hit that like button and crush that subscribe. I want you to subscribe to these videos because I want to provide you high quality content. My gosh, if you've made it this far, bless you. Thanks guys for watching. Don't forget, I love you all and I will talk to you in the next video.